You are walking through dense woods. A bird suddenly explodes from the canopy. A deer freezes in the distance, staring with wide and terrified eyes. Then it vanishes into the trees. You possess no sharp natural claws, and you have no biological armor. You are just wearing hiking boots, yet the forest reacts with panic, treating you like sudden physical death. This reaction seems logically quite backward. Wild animals navigate constant daily threats, surviving alongside wolves and aggressive bears. But human presence triggers something deeper. Scientists call this phenomenon the landscape, which they name the landscape of fear. This concept explains how prey survive. They do not just avoid predators. They shape their entire daily existence around the mere possibility of danger. For millions of consecutive early years, our early ancestors were part of that. We heavily influenced that survival calculation. Researchers from Western Ontario tested this. They published a truly fascinating study designed to measure wild animal responses. They set up hidden audio equipment and played recordings for local wildlife. They did not play lion roars. They did not use wolf howls. They simply played casual human conversation. People talking quietly at normal volume. The local mountain lions fled immediately. They ran from the human voices, fleeing much faster than from dogs. Other creatures showed the same panic. Skunks and deer abandoned the area. Bobcats bolted from the vocal sounds. Even apex predators showed strong avoidance. This reveals a deep historical memory that extends across many early generations. Our ancestors were early persistence hunters. We rarely outran our target directly, because we lacked the sprint speed. But we possessed high endurance stamina. We walked upright and saw everything. We communicated locations across long distances. We just followed animals for hours, tracking them through intense afternoon heat. We kept going until they collapsed. This created a deeply unsettling pattern. Most natural predators follow strict rules. A hunting hawk dives from above. A crocodile waits beneath murky water. Wolves often hunt during the twilight. Prey animals learn these specific patterns. Knowing the schedule keeps them alive. You avoid the water at dusk and watch the sky during daylight. But humans broke the standard algorithm. We hunted during the extreme heat and tracked at night with fire. We used traps and thrown spears. We operated without a fixed schedule. From a biological survival perspective alone, we were a variable without solutions. Learning a predator pattern involves repetition. You know a train runs predictably. You simply avoid the crossing schedule. But early humans ignored all schedules. We arrived from any possible direction. We showed up at random times. When a variable remains constantly unpredictable, the safest response is total avoidance. Over thousands of consecutive early generations, animals that did not run disappeared. The survivors passed down intense caution directly to their vulnerable young offspring. This created a genetic baseline response. You step outside wearing fresh clothes, washed with standard, modern commercial soap. To a deer down the valley, you announce your presence very loudly. Human scent carries a unique signature. We produce specific chemical odor compounds. Modern products add synthetic chemical layers. This creates an unmistakable olfactory profile. Predator urine often deters smaller wildlife because animals read specific chemical signals. Human scent triggers a similar alarm. Leaving a shirt soaked in sweat can alter local animal movement patterns. Your mere physical existence signals danger. Even our biology signals active threat. Our cells handle complex chemical signaling, but never considered strong modern deodorants. So we smell like synthetic pine, mixed with a dangerous apex predator. The natural world reacts to this. This fear physically changes natural spaces. Ecologists continuously track this invisible force. Animals do not just run away. They abandon preferred feeding grounds entirely. They spend less time eating outdoors. They move differently through the brush. In recent years, researchers documented shifts by studying mammals across 6 continents. Many diurnal species changed their routines, shifting their activity into the night. They did this to avoid humans. The sunlight became too inherently risky because humans mostly operate during daylight. Human presence literally rescheduled the forest. We changed when wild animals sleep. We forced them into nocturnal lives. We altered their basic daily biology. This disrupted complex natural feeding webs. But this fear is not permanent. Some species learn to adapt differently. You have likely encountered city pigeons. They refuse to yield the sidewalk, barely acknowledging your fast human approach. This demonstrates the mechanism of habituation. Repeated exposure usually changes brain responses. If a stimulus appears very often, and it brings no physical harm, the nervous system gradually stops reacting. Think of moving near an airport. The first week feels uncomfortably loud, waking you up repeatedly every night. 6 months later, you sleep peacefully. Your brain simply filters the sound, realizing the noise causes nothing dangerous. City animals perform a similar filtering. Running away costs valuable metabolic energy. Fleeing from everyone wastes precious calories. If humans just drop breadcrumbs, panic becomes an inefficient daily strategy. The threat level gradually gets downgraded. They realized we hide valuable calories. Crows take this process much further. They do not just ignore people. They identify specific individual human faces. They remember who chased them previously, passing this valuable information to others. They teach young crows about threats. They developed an actual surveillance network. Evolution never waited for a committee. It simply optimized the local birds. Now they hold long neighborhood grudges, while adapting to our urban structures. We know fear is heavily conditioned, because isolated environments prove it clearly. Consider the famous Galapagos Islands fauna. Charles Darwin documented this strange phenomenon. He watched birds ignore his approach. When early humans arrived by ship, the local animals showed zero panic. Birds sat calmly on lower branches, and marine iguanas allowed physical approach. They simply did not recognize danger. In parts of modern remote Antarctica, penguins still walk toward research equipment. They inspect bags and heavy cameras. They sometimes try stealing small items. They never learned the bipedal threat and lacked the historical generational memory. Without the pressure of human hunting, the fear simply never got installed. Marine reserves show similar behavioral changes. When fishing stops for several decades, fish populations stop fleeing from divers. They swim directly toward the humans. This creates a complex modern challenge. Deep fear often blocks conservation efforts. Highly anxious animals stay hidden constantly. Researchers struggle to monitor their health. We cannot easily see hidden populations. The fear makes wild animals invisible. We visit nature and see nothing. We interpret silence as undisturbed habitat. But the silence actually means flight. Our presence pushes them further away. But careful evidence shows positive changes. This gives hope for global conservation. The landscape of fear can dissolve. Mountain gorillas in protected African reserves once fled from any approaching human. They avoided all contact with rangers. Now some tolerate quiet human observers. This required years of consistent patience. Rangers proved they were not threats by maintaining a safe physical distance. The animals gathered enough safe data and updated their internal survival models. You visit a strictly protected reserve. You wait near the forest edge. A deer eventually steps into sunlight. It does not immediately bolt away. It evaluates the actual current threat. The ecosystem slowly unlearns the panic. Fear requires constant reinforcement to survive. Without the threat, animals slowly relax. Animals retreat because history demands it. We earned our frightening biological reputation. Our ancestors hunted across every continent and reshaped habitats without much warning. The fleeing squirrel is not dramatic. It relies on ancient survival instructions. It runs an old biological program, but intelligence allows new behavioral patterns. When we choose to protect spaces, when we remove the hunting pressure, when we respect the wild boundaries, the natural world gradually steps forward. The ancient fear eventually quiets down. The forest eventually stops running away.